In 1943, over occupied Europe, the air war was still dominated by the Luftwaffe. German fighter pilots had defeated every opponent they had faced. Spitfires, Hurricanes, P-40s, B-24s, even B-17s. They believed they controlled the sky. Then a new American fighter arrived. The P-47 Thunderbolt. German pilots laughed when they first saw it. Compared to the agile Messerschmitt Bf-109 and the aggressive Focke-Wulf FW-190, the P-47 looked ridiculous. It was huge, heavy, and ugly. Luftwaffe pilots called it Der Eisernberg, the Iron Mountain. Too heavy, too slow, too big, German pilots wrote in early reports. Another American tractor with wings, they joked over the radio. They believed the Thunderbolt was easy prey. One pass, one burst of cannon fire, finished. But they were wrong. The P-47 was not built for elegance. It was not built for aerial ballet. It was built for one purpose: survival through firepower. And it would not fight by the rules of the Luftwaffe. The Germans laughed, right until the Thunderbolt started killing them. The U.S. Army Air Forces never tried to imitate German tactics. America did not build the P-47 to be the fastest or the most maneuverable. It built a machine that could win wars, not air shows. Its heart was the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, a 2,000 horsepower, 18-cylinder radial engine. The Germans mocked it as a flying engine block. But soon they learned the truth. That engine made the Thunderbolt nearly impossible to kill. Unlike German liquid-cooled engines, the P-47's air-cooled engine could take hits and keep running. Bullets could tear through the wings and fuselage and it would still fly. For the first time, German fighter pilots faced an enemy aircraft that refused to fall after a single hit. But the true weapon of the Thunderbolt was not its engine. It was not its speed. It was its brutality. In each of its wings were 4.50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns, 8 in total. 8 heavy guns that, together, unleashed a storm of metal that shredded anything in front of them. German aircraft were built for fast precision attacks. The Thunderbolt was built to destroy with overwhelming force. The Luftwaffe believed in skill and elegance. The P-47 believed in something else: results. The first real lesson for Germany came over Normandy in June 1944. While German tanks struggled to hold the Allied advance on the ground, a different war was being fought in the sky. The Luftwaffe attempted to stop American bombers, but a new predator appeared above the front: the P-47 Thunderbolt. German pilots were used to being the hunters. Their tactics were simple: dive from above, make a fast attack, fire a short burst, and climb back to safety. Speed and altitude advantage, that was how air superiority was won. But against the Thunderbolt, this tactic failed. The Germans attacked and suddenly found themselves in a trap. The Thunderbolt did not try to dodge. It did not desperately turn in circles. It waited. It used a single tactic: boom and zoom. Attack from high altitude and dive away with crushing speed. No German fighter could follow it in a dive. Not the Bf-109, not even the FW-190. The P-47 dropped like a hammer, and unlike a hammer, it could climb back up again. The battle that silenced the first Luftwaffe pilots was recorded by both sides. Lieutenant Francis Gabby Gabreski of the 56th Fighter Group engaged 6 Bf-109s alone. He did not dogfight them. He did not play games. He climbed above them, waited for the moment, and struck from the sky. His 8.50 caliber guns tore apart the leading German fighter in the first pass. The formation collapsed. The hunt had begun. The Germans admitted over radio, "This aircraft cannot be pursued. It is too fast in the dive." But worse than that, they realized something else: the Thunderbolt chose when to fight. It was not reacting. It was dictating the battle. The hunters had become the hunted. The Germans believed Americans could not fight in the air. But wars are not won by aces, they are won by systems. And the P-47 was not just an aircraft. It was part of a machine built to dominate the sky. The Thunderbolt did not fight alone. It fought in coordinated groups. The U.S. adopted a new warfare doctrine: offensive air sweeps. The mission was simple: sweep the sky clean. The Thunderbolt did not look for duels. It eliminated the enemy wherever it appeared. No mercy, no hesitation. The 56th Fighter Group, led by Hubert Zemke, became feared across the Luftwaffe. The Germans gave them a name, Zemke's Wolfpack. They did not fight fair. They attacked from above, from the sun, from clouds. They never attacked without an advantage. They hunted like wolves. Week after week, German pilot reports repeated the same line. Thunderbolts do not fight like us. They don't turn. They don't circle. They kill. And as the losses mounted, German pilots began to understand. This was no longer a contest of flying skill. It was air supremacy by destruction. The Thunderbolt was not just a fighter. It became a nightmare for German forces on the ground. What began as a bomber escort turned into a weapon of total frontline destruction. The P-47 received a new role, fighter bomber. A tank buster. A convoy killer. Where artillery could not reach and tanks could not break through, the Thunderbolt appeared. It dropped from the sky and tore supply lines apart. Its 8.50 caliber machine guns shredded trucks, armored vehicles, staff cars, anti-aircraft positions, ammunition depots, and even locomotives. It didn't just destroy, it erased. German ground reports began to include a new term, aerial shredding. This happened when a Thunderbolt made long, punishing attack runs, not short bursts, and literally cut enemy columns to pieces. No Luftwaffe aircraft could deliver this level of gunfire density. But the most terrifying thing about the P-47 was that it did not fear German anti-aircraft fire. It soaked up damage like no other plane. Could lose cylinders, have wings full of holes, and still return to base. Allied pilots began saying, "A P-47 brings you home." And German troops began saying something else. "When the Thunderbolts come, everyone dies." The Wehrmacht tried to adapt. They moved convoys at night. They reinforced anti-air guns. They spread out formations. Nothing worked. The Thunderbolt crippled German supply lines everywhere it went. It was no longer just fighting the Luftwaffe. It was strangling the German army itself. The Luftwaffe had never feared the enemy, until now. Thunderbolts did not die the way aircraft were supposed to. They kept flying after being hit. They came back again, and they always returned to the fight. High-altitude bomber interceptions became suicide missions. German pilots dove through walls of .50 caliber gunfire from B-17 and B-24 formations, and they knew somewhere above them Thunderbolts were waiting. The P-47 stalked them from the sky, using altitude and patience. It watched. It waited. Then it struck. One pilot from Jägerschwader 54 later wrote, "We were no longer afraid of the bombers. We were afraid of their guardians. Those gray Thunderbolts fell on us like anvils. You didn't hear them coming. You just saw the tracers." Thunderbolt dominance was not just physical. It became psychological. German pilots stopped feeling safe at any altitude. The sky was no longer theirs. The air war stopped being a hunt, it became survival. For the first time since 1939, the Luftwaffe had lost the initiative. The strength of the Thunderbolt was not only in the machine, but in the men who flew it. Many American pilots were not aces by romantic definition. They did not chase glory. They hunted victory. They fought as a disciplined force, not as duelists. There was no elegance in the P-47's fighting style. No Hollywood maneuvers. No airshow theatrics. Thunderbolt pilots were taught one thing: win and survive. One attacked, one covered, one finished the enemy. No unnecessary risks. No pointless turns. No ego in combat. Joseph Howard of the 56th Fighter Group said, "The Germans had aces. We had hunters. The difference is simple. An ace fights for reputation. A hunter fights to bring his brothers home." This mindset broke the Luftwaffe. German pilots entered fights as individuals. Americans entered as a pack. The wolfpack strategy destroyed German formations and confidence. The Luftwaffe could not outfly them, not because they lacked skill, but because skill alone could not defeat iron discipline. The era of the lone hero in the sky was over. The era of the hunter squadron had begun. The Thunderbolt did not need to be the fastest plane in the sky. It did not need to be the most maneuverable, because it possessed something more decisive than both: overwhelming firepower. Its 8.50 caliber Browning machine guns were devastating. Each gun was capable of firing more than 800 rounds per minute. Together, they unleashed 400 rounds per second. A storm of metal that no German aircraft could endure. One clean hit could rip off a wing. A 2-second burst could turn a Messerschmitt into burning debris. German pilots were trained to fire short, controlled cannon bursts. Thunderbolt pilots learned something different. Keep the trigger down until the target stops moving. The Thunderbolt didn't just shoot down aircraft. It executed them. That raw, destructive power broke the tactical rhythm of the Luftwaffe. German pilots lost faith in their armor, in their aircraft, even in their own training. It was the beginning of collapse. And now, the Thunderbolt was ready to finish the job by destroying the Luftwaffe at its source. By the summer of 1944, German aces began to die faster than they could be replaced. The Thunderbolt pilots understood the true strategy of air war. To win, you must destroy the enemy's ability to fight, not just shoot down aircraft. So they changed their priority. They began hunting airfields and training bases. The Thunderbolt unleashed a new phase of the war. Attacks during takeoff and landing. Luftwaffe fighters were most vulnerable on the ground. Lined up, low on speed, with nowhere to run. P-47s struck airfields like executioners. They destroyed hangars, fuel depots, repair stations, ammunition bunkers, and aircraft before they could even leave the ground. German pilot diaries began repeating the same words. It is not difficult to defeat a Thunderbolt in combat. The difficulty is surviving long enough to reach the battle. The Luftwaffe was dying before it even took off. The P-47 Thunderbolt was not a perfect aircraft. It was heavy. It burned fuel quickly. It shook violently in steep dives. It was not pretty, but it was unstoppable. In 1944 to 1945, it became the true symbol of American air power. Not the P-51 Mustang. Not the Spitfire. The aircraft that broke the Luftwaffe was the Thunderbolt, the flying hammer that never stopped coming. It did not win by beauty. It did not win by speed. It won by destroying everything in its path and by bringing its pilots home alive. German pilots once said, "We did not fear the Thunderbolt as an aircraft. We feared its sound. If you heard it above you, you were already dead." The laughter ended. The hunting was over. The age of the Thunderbolt had begun.